Hey everyone, it's Savvy Loves, and today we are going to make a chiikawa pudding pen holder for my friend. So I made this using airdry clay and resin, and I wanted to show a chiikawa that was very stressed and holding up a pudding, and the pudding is supposed to prop up a pen. And I made a little indent in the pudding for the pen, and chiikawa is supposed to be attached to it and just kind of like holding it up. Here I'm preparing some slip, which is made of clay and water, and I'm preparing it so that I can stick chiikawa's hands and ears to its body. So what I've learned from dealing with air dry clay is that you should always keep the clay a bit moist, especially if you're not going to be using it. I also have a bowl of water to just smoothen things out, but I'm being careful to not add too much because whenever I add too much water, the clay just cracks like crazy when it's drying. So a little bit of water and just smooth it out as best as possible, and then I will be sanding it down later on as well. So I'm making the pudding out of air dry clay because I'm going to be making a mold out of it, and I'm going to put resin inside because I want a little bit of transparency in the pudding. And then after I finish the pudding, I'm starting with chiikawa's head, and it's a really fat and round head, and I wish I made it fatter, but yeah, I didn't realize how big their heads were, and next time I'll definitely make it bigger to make it more like the original. After I made the head and the body, I scored the parts that are gonna be connecting, and then I put some slip in the middle and just squish them together. And after that, I'm using a tool to kind of smooth the edges so that it looks more seamless. And once I'm done with the head and the body, I started making the ears, the hands and the legs. And because those parts are really small, I just put some slip and then attach the parts to the body. I actually failed the first round of painting, and then when I removed the layer of painting, the ears kind of fell off. So if you are attaching things this way, it is quite fragile, so just be careful. After letting everything dry for at least 24 hours, so in my case I let it dry for 1 week, then I prepared my nail dust fan, which is great for this kind of situations. But if you don't have a nail dust fan, please do it outdoors and wear a mask. And I'm using a little sanding kit to kind of sand down the edges and the surface so that it's smoother when I paint it. Now I'm making the mold for the pudding using Amazing Mold Putty, and this, I just bought this from Art Friend and it was quite expensive, but it's good and it works well. So just try to take even amounts of the white and the yellow and mix them together. I don't really weigh them, but you can use a scale if you want to. I find that it's not very finicky, like even if it's a little bit off, the mold still sets up quite well. So I just eyeball it, and then I push the pudding into the mold and try to get rid of any lines, like really push it together and get rid of any bubbles. After I've pushed it in, I let it set for about 30 minutes, and then I push out the clay piece and I have a mold for my pudding that I can reuse and make more again. And maybe the next time round, the head will actually be a good size. But yeah, next time. So the first time I tried making the pudding, I was using UV resin. But in the UV resin, I added white and yellow dye because pudding is a little bit opaque, like it's not fully transparent, and then the resin didn't set and it was a whole headache. So if you're making opaque looking resin pieces, please use epoxy resin. So I bought epoxy resin just for this. So for this particular resin, the ratio of resin to hardener is 2.5 to 1 based on the weight. So that's what I used to measure out the resin and mix it together. I added oil-based color dyes, and that's how I got the pudding color. And then I just left it to set for like another week. But actually 24 hours is enough lah. So this was my second try at painting Chiikawa's face, and oh my god, painting Chiikawa's face is actually a lot harder than you think. Like, the design looks simple, but the proportion is so hard to get right, especially with something so small. So I don't know, I think the next time I do this I need to make it bigger. It's so difficult, but I'm glad I finished it lah. So after I finished painting Chiikawa's face and I let the resin set for a week, I proceeded to use UV resin to glaze it, and this was when another stupid thing happened. Like, I think when I was glazing the back of the Chiikawa, like the UV resin dripped down to the front, and I was propping it up with blue tack, so it kind of melted into the shape of the blue tack, and then I had to file it and clip it and repaint that part of the body, so the final doesn't look as clean as I would like it to be. And I think next time I'm just gonna use a lot less resin and just do more coats. I think that's the lesson here, and not be impatient. And I also added some brown dye to some UV resin and put it on the pudding to make it look like caramel pudding. And off camera, I glazed it with more UV resin very carefully this time round and made everything shiny, even the bottom. And I was finished! And it took me 3 weeks to make this. A lot of lessons were learned. Firstly, Chiikawa's head is bigger than this, and secondly, the face is also smaller than this, and thirdly, only use epoxy resin when you are making opaque looking resin pieces, and lastly, glaze little by little and don't be impatient. So those are things that I've learned, and I hope this has helped you if you want to do something similar, and I will list the things that I used in the description below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye!